Welcome to today's episode of The Power of Reinvention. Here we talk with my guests about the dreams, the visions, and the passions that individuals have every day and dare to explore them. Whether it's business or personal, you're entitled to live the life that you want, and no matter what the circumstances, you have the power to create success, fulfill your dreams, and live with passion. That's what I'm talking about. So dare greatly and happy reinventing, folks. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Power of Reinvention. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope everybody's year is getting off to an incredible start. I could not be more excited but to have my guest, Sharon John, on with us today. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great, doing great. It feels like we've been shot out of a cannon. The first of the year is here, and we are off and running. And having just spent a week at CES in Las Vegas, I am good to go. I am ready for it all, right?
I would be beat down already.
Oh my goodness. You know, I feel like it was
I'm
kind of
always
like the
tired.
jump start, like the
Yeah.
adrenaline shot that you needed to kind of wake you up and say, okay, 2026, bring it on.
That's right. I love it.
So I love that you are my first guest that I'm interviewing this year. And this is a
Oh,
beautiful,
yay.
beautiful
I feel special.
opportunity. Well, you are special. And as a matter of fact, I am going to share with everybody how special you are. I'm going to share a little intro on Sharon for those who may not know her storied career. Sharon has served as the president and CEO of Build-A-Bear Workshop. She's been there since 2013. She's leading the global experiential retail pioneer. She is leading the global experiential retail pioneer through a successful financial turnaround and diversification and sustained growth. And under her leadership, Build-A-Bear expanded beyond malls and children, scaled e-commerce, and entered entertainment, delivering some of the most profitable years in the company's history, while staying true to its mission, which was adding a little more heart to life. She is a seasoned turnaround leader. She's previously held senior roles at Stride Rite, Hasbro, Mattel, and VTech. She's also a fellow author of Stories and Heart, an Amazon #1 best-selling book on leadership, storytelling, and personal growth. So there's a little background, and I have so many important questions to ask you, Sharon. So thank you again for being here and for your
Thanks.
time.
It's fun. It's always fun to catch up with, particularly if you say sort of you turn the page on the year and think about where you are and what you want to do, and always talk to people that I know and respect. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, look, I think a fun way to start this conversation is to really take you back in time. And if I may, I want to ask you, who was little Sharon? I mean, you were probably playing in a similar playground, toys and family entertainment, but as a kid, as one does. But did you envision that you would have a career when you were younger in this space? What did you kind of dream about when you were a little girl?
Oh, well, I think, first of all, if you'd asked me then, I definitely would have been in some sort of creative endeavor. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
thought I would be, but this is actually a very creative CEO role. And all the companies that I've worked at, even though they've been more on the business side, they're still extremely creative positions because the companies are creative organizations. So that's been, I think, an important part of the choices that I've made, all the way back to being in the advertising industry. So while I was an account executive, I'm still in the adding industry, right? That's a creative industry. I don't think I would have done well if I hadn't had that duality of kind of the left brain, right brain approach. I think that's a little bit of a superpower, but I didn't figure that out till a lot later, not when I was a kid. I was super brand aware. Like, it was kind of weird. Like, and I love my Barbies, all these things that I ended up working on. I love my Barbies.
Right.
I loved tossing Nerf balls with my brother. I love my stuffies. I had so many stuffies. I named them all. I rotated them so they wouldn't feel left out. I had the whole big, like, I don't know what all going on in my head. I had an easy bake oven. I grew up and worked on an easy bake oven, all of this stuff. It's like I just wanna relive my childhood, I guess. But, there are worse things. I think
That's
no one would have thought that I wasn't gonna be leading something. My dad was, always super supportive, as was my mom, and he actually nicknamed me Short Fuse because I was very determined. So I think if somebody had asked, and even in my school teachers, "Oh, she's gonna be something, we just don't know what it is."
right, but there was an intent and a focus to
Oh,
to
yeah.
you, but that creative side, which is so special when you can combine those 2 talents. I feel like I get to do that in my life every day. You do. Being bringing creativity to business is a very special space to be in, when you're wired that way, especially. That's very precious. And I would love to know, like, what was some of those pivotal aha moments as you were building your career, and maybe go back to sort of some of the early jobs that formed and shaped your business acumen that you felt challenged by, that you got to really grow and build, the building blocks of where you are today.
That's a really good question, and, when I think about there's a Steve Jobs quote about how you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking back.
Interesting.
I'm a little bit in that space right now. I think that has to happen obviously later in your career when you start to see the influences, even in the smallest ways. And I mean, I've worked in all kinds of places. It sounds like I was like homeless or didn't have a job. I mean, I've worked at like a movie theater doing the ticket taker and making popcorn. I've worked at McDonald's in the drive-through. I worked at a florist, arranging flowers and helping them with accounting. I've worked at pick and pack and Lee Jeans at the night shift. I mean, I've done some stuff. I've worked at a furniture store. I've worked in merchandise, like, and every single one of those things you really get if you're willing, you get to learn something. I think about even my days in pick and pack. I mean, I think about that when I'm in my own warehouse these days, or when I'm walking a floor at a factory, or how we do our distribution. Those things come flooding back to me, or efficiency models, or the way McDonald's ran, particularly the drive-through, which is serious business, by the way. And 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 how people were treated and what made you want to work or not want to work, or how I it really does impact the decisions that I've made. Now, you're like the question though about was there something pivotal? I'm going to say that there was a series of things, and in each case, it was kind of an aha moment, but they were similar. My aha moment is that there was something in me, whether it was because I was from a small town, or whatever the reasons might be. Um, I probably it took me a long time to shoot high enough that I was really challenged, but the whole time I thought I was always ready to fail. This is weird. So
Interesting.
when I graduated from high school and I went off to college, I'm like, okay, now high school was pretty easy. Okay, now's the time. Now I'll hit the wall. And college was okay, it's fine. And then I'm like, well, I'll go to work and now I'm going to hit the wall. Didn't happen. Then I'm like, oh, I'll move to New York, but now that'll be it. Now, now's the time. That didn't happen. I'm like, well, I'll go get, somebody's like, you should go get an MBA. I'm like, I can't get an MBA. They're like, I'm like, "Should I move home?" They're like, "No, go to Columbia." I'm like, "Well, now I'm gonna hit the wall." And that didn't happen. So, I finally I I look back on it now and I'm like, "What was it that I just didn't ever have enough?" And people don't believe me, so I apologize. I clearly didn't have enough confidence to really just take a quantum leap ever. And, I wish people would do that. I like look at folks and I'm like, take the quantum leap. Like go for something that's beyond what you think and then recalibrate. Because it took me a long time to calibrate. Because I kept thinking, "Oh, no, I'm pushing too oh, I don't think, and
Were
so,
you afraid of failure? Were you,
I mean,
like, what do you think it was? Because so often people are afraid to take that leap because they're afraid they're gonna fail, or they
there has
don't
to be a
think
part of
that
it.
right? Or they don't think that they are worthy of that or that they know enough about that. And, friends of ours in our business who are very near and dear to us, have shared in these conversations often, either in the book or on the podcast or in life, that, there was almost a degree of imposter syndrome. But if you don't lean into it and bring all that you've learned to the table, you're never going to get to that next place. And you bring all the tools in the tool chest with you, and you perhaps learn new things or you grow into roles. And, I'm not a believer in the imposter syndrome. I think you need to visualize and manifest what you want to create, and you will become that and have it and be it.
Right.
And that's the positive spin on what imposter syndrome is. So yay, I think imposter syndrome is a great thing. If you've got that and you're feeling that, then good for you. It means you're actually striving to grow out of your comfort zone and accomplish something. And it sounds like you just kept stepping into things that gave you the opportunity to grow and build and do and be more than you even knew you were capable of by the
I
sound
think
of it.
to dig in on the why, if you try to psychoanalyze the why now, you're
Yeah,
probably hitting on something, and I think that's something that people, might benefit from. It's that you're not supposed to know how to do everything at the next level. That is the natural state, and when you devalue yourself because you don't know everything about the next step, well, welcome to the club. Nobody that's about to take the next step knows everything about it, because if they did, that would be not the next step. So
exactly. It makes perfect sense.
it does when you think about it. And if I just, it wasn't a no more or try, it was like the understanding of you're not supposed to know everything about the next thing that you do. That's the point. That's the entire point. And if you can just embrace that, realizing that any competition either, they don't either. They don't understand everything. So I think, and we then relabel that as I'm afraid of failure. But not knowing everything about the next thing you're going to do is not failure. That's learning.
It's
So
part
I
of the
think it's a matter
process,
of
right?
just kind of recreating what that feeling means. It's
Yeah.
not negative. It's you should get excited. Like, yay, I don't know everything about the next thing I'm about to do. That sounds exciting.
Exactly.
Versus
Well, you're right. It's reframing. I always say, put on the rose-colored glasses and look at the
yeah.
world through that lens for a moment, and you'll realize there are different ways to look at things. And your experience with the world when you allow yourself that is quite extraordinary. I talk about reinvention in the context of
Yeah.
feeling entitled. And once we know we're entitled to have what we want or to do what we want or to dream big, we then set out on the journey to create it. We can then put that GPS location in our roadmap and figure out how to get to where we want to go. But it starts with that realization that you're entitled and that you can. And it sounds like in your journey, there were so many moments. And look, you've been at the helm of so many incredible brands and companies, clearly as a change agent and a thought leader and doing so much. Was there, you've stayed very much within what feels like similar industries, if you will,
Kid space.
right?
I'd call
Kids
it kids,
space.
kids
Yep.
something. Yeah.
Kids,
Yeah. Even there was
family,
sometimes apparel,
toys.
sometimes toys,
Right.
sometimes entertainment, but things that
Right.
are, I would say, youthfully focused, even though
Yeah.
sometimes adults buy it. I mean, like 40% of Build-A-Bear sales are to teens and adults, but um, I kind of make
So,
fun of that, like,
right. So when you joined Build-A-Bear, I mean, it's a great segue to my question. When you joined in, I think it was 2013, if I remember
yeah,
correctly. And you looked at the company and where it was at and sort of said, okay, I'm going to bring the whole tool chest with me here. I've got vision. What was it that you set out to do? And maybe talk a little bit about all the growth that Build-A-Bear has experienced since then, um, and where maybe challenges were. I think we're living in such an interesting day and age. I mean, my kids are 26 and 29. So lucky for me, there weren't a lot of gadgets around when they were young until they got to like their, probably 6, 8, 10-year old. But I had those first precious years without a whole lot of
Mhm.
gadgets in their lives. And, I think that we're now grappling with children having that sort of, challenge between gadgets and electronics versus the warm and fuzzy that a brand and a product like the Build-A-Bear gives kids. So I'd love to just sort of hear your thoughts about the evolution and the growth of the industry, the impact you've had on it, and where you see, is it a challenge? Is it an opportunity that we're living in such a digital age now with little ones?
Yeah. So that's a very multidimensional question.
Yeah,
I'll
sorry.
try to start with like the beginning of that by saying, when you're in a turnaround, as I had been on business units or brands, as you noted, the first thing you have to do is focus on financial stability and returning to profitability. Because without that, it's sort of like it's ER.
Yeah.
You get out of ICU, and then we'll decide what we're going to be. But I also didn't come here though without a vision of what I thought the company could be, and that with having 96 mid 90s aided brand awareness and a lot of affinity, you believe that there's probably a lot that we're not actually mining, if you will. And that I needed to believe, which we've since proven to be true, that we did not have to operate almost solely as a vertical retailer in a mall, right? And that was gonna be necessary to do that, to not only monetize the extraordinary equity that was trapped inside this brand across, outside of malls, because malls were also struggling, and realizing that the idea in the origin of Build-A-Bear by the founder, Maxine, was that Build-A-Bear would be where families go for fun and entertainment. That just happened to be a mall. Nowhere it doesn't say Build-A-Bear has to be in a mall. Like, that just became
The
lore.
thing.
That's the
Right.
thing, it's just where people would go, and now they were going to other places, hospitality places, amusement parks, things like that, so you gotta go where the people are. I mean, that's kind of basic stuff.
Yeah.
Recognizing how to create and what first where and how to create value. Where are your core competencies? Where does your value lie? And how do you build an infrastructure to extract that value? So that's what I'm really proud of is we've built that infrastructure. So we're now not just a retailer that accidentally built a brand. We're branded intellectual property company that happens to have vertical retail as one of its rev streams, including international, including e-commerce, including outbound licensing, including content creation, include, so that's the value of the brand. And it's my job to find ways to make that happen while valuing our stakeholders, not just shareholders, our stakeholders, including our guests and our bear builders and everybody else, all the way to our factories. So we have built that infrastructure, and it is in that construct that we've been able to see the kind of growth because we're not just growing or trying to create value out of this one idea. We're now monetizing across multiple ideas and multiple consumers. So when you think through, you're stretching your revenue streams, you're expanding your consumer base to appeal to a generational consumer because we're multi-generational, and you're going outside of your geographic boundaries. I mean, you kind of have to grow. There's really no other
You
answer,
did it
right?
right.
Because
Right.
right, and so that starts to add up if you give it a minute. So, so we
Yeah.
mentioned in our last earnings call that we're expecting our fifth consecutive year of record results. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Congratulations. Yeah,
the
no,
team, it's look, nobody does this alone. You know this.
yeah.
Nobody does it alone. And it's crazy, what's happened, and you have to believe in the power of the brand to really do this. I
Right.
mean,
Well,
it
if
does.
I may, I know that during COVID, it was a very challenging time.
Oh,
And that
terrible.
seems like it was a lifetime ago, but it doesn't. It actually seems like it was a moment ago, and it was. But to even recover from that does speak to the power of the brand, where people were not going into malls, not going into retail stores, the physicality of it all. How did you navigate through that to be where you are, to be able to say what you just
Yeah.
shared about the last five, quarters of growth? I mean, that's really incredible.
Well, we were still, in turnaround phase to some degree. We'd stabilized and we had been profitable, but not wildly profitable. So we were still very conservative. So we didn't have any debt. We managed a very tight ship. We had just launched and put some new platforms up under our website,
Okay.
and created a new warehouse management system. I mean, we flipped the switch on that in January of 2020 that would eventually allow us to buy online, ship from store, and gave us a lot more visibility to an inventory perspective, which allowed us to really drive e-commerce because e-commerce became our only source of revenue. Almost immediately, we shut down 100% of our stores in 48 hours.
I mean, that's a big decision, and wow, what a, like what a bold move, right?
No,
I
the
mean,
bold we were ordered to. We were considered non-essential. Now, I'll go all the way to the top, stressing that stuffed animals are essential, and the Red Cross believes it to be true,
right.
really, particularly during stressful,
Times,
situations.
right, right. Oh, I'm getting
I
goosebumps
could
thinking
say,
about what you're saying.
quite honestly, everybody needed a teddy bear in 2020, but
Yeah,
we were considered non-essential, so we had to shut down. Government said, "Done.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
out."
yeah.
And, that there's no playbook for that.
I was
Uh,
gonna say, but it's all about how you then take that moment and pivot or reinvent, as I like to say.
yeah, I
And
that
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 is what you did. You had to reinvent the business model.
we did, and but again, the key there is if you the creation of a strong strategy, a great leadership team, a roadmap that makes sense, of being constantly fiscally responsible, builds trust and gives you latitude. We were diversified more than we'd ever been from a rev stream as well as a consumer based perspective. And that, along with that lack of debt, those tight reins, and trust to move at a incredible speed, because we shifted from what's a very collaborative management style almost overnight to a command and control management style, purposeful. But we told the team, we're going to have to do this. This is not time. We don't have the time to debate and turn and imagine. Like, nobody has perfect information. We're going to have to operate quickly with imperfect information, and that's going to require trust. And the team trusted the executive management to
Amazing.
make the closest to the right decision that we could make, and it was that
Right.
speed, and we got more right than we got wrong, and
Amazing.
go figure, but
We'll take it.
I'll take it.
Right.
And, when we popped out, uh, strong.
Yeah. And this issue that our world is living in that I touched on my question before about plush toys versus electronics, let's say, that not that, they're all fabulous and they all serve a purpose. Well, not all of them, but gadgets and electronics. And again, I'm
Yeah.
thrilled that my kids kind of came a little bit, after, I mean, before all of that, that I didn't have to grapple with it as much until they got a bit older. But is there sort of a pendulum swinging backwards because parents are feeling like they need their kids to try to spend a little more time with that stuffed animal in their hand before they totally lose it to the gadget? I mean, what's the conversation
Yeah.
like around all of that?
Well, here's the thing. I worked at VTech Toys, you mentioned it years ago when electronic
Yeah.
learning toys were,
Yeah.
people
Oh,
were
it was an
aghast.
amazing brand.
Yeah,
I
but they were,
mean,
"What? We can't give electronic learning toys to to
right. What?
children."
Someone and a
Oh
machine is going to
gosh,
teach
they
my
would
child how to
literally
spell?
no,
Yeah. Yeah. I was
and
definitely part of that era.
right, but and then I worked on Fur Real Friends where, like, those are animatronic animals.
Right.
There's always, that evolution, and it's not that we wanna stop an evolution. I mean, there was a time when radio and records and television was gonna ruin the world, and maybe it did, I don't know. But, it
That's a whole other
good
podcast, Sharon.
podcast.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be evolution. There's always gonna be change. There's always gonna be technological advancements. And I think it's truly at this juncture, and you'd think we would learn this as a society, that you have to just find the way that it makes sense within the construct of the greater objectives, right? And as fast as that might be moving, we're really no different than we were thousands of years ago as humans. We're still physical. We need hugs and
Need to
touch
touch and
and
right.
tactile, and the way people learn is still multidimensional. It's not singular. And that entire ecosystem of experience is the best way. And you could listen to from doctors to child psychologists. That's the best, even grown-ups. That's the best way to learn. And we all have different learning skills from, visual to audio to kinetic. And that multidimensional approach is always the best way. That's not it's gonna take us another thousands and thousands of years to change that. God, I
Yeah.
don't think we will. We live in a physical world, and it's important that that physical aspect stay with us. And we do I think it'd be a lot to call it an entire pendulum swing, but it does modulate, right? And I do feel like and I think this was mostly COVID. I think it's modulated back toward being together, having experienced it.
Yeah, well,
See,
I think as we look at experiential and the re-rise, because I started my career in producing events and mall tours and family entertainment and, all of the experiential that feels like, you can't walk into a room. Here I was at CES, and as much as everybody was talking about AI, everybody was talking about experiential. And I think there is that yearning, that craving to really hold on to what we hold sacred, to your point, that we are humans, we need it, we want it, we crave it. And it's up to us to sort of reach for it and make sure that that is essential in our lives.
100%. I mean, as much as I enjoy this, you and I've met in person. It's helpful that we've met in person because as humans, there's so many additional cues and info, and I don't want us to lose that, right?
Right, right.
That's a crazy idea that we would lose what the very essence that makes us human.
Yeah, no, I
And that
appreciate
is
that.
in a physical space, and children have to learn those cues themselves. They
Right,
really you can't, like, put that down on a piece of paper. So when somebody raises their eyebrows, that means this. They have to be around
right.
people
Exactly, to do that. I heard something
nonverbal
interesting
cues. Yeah.
on one of the morning shows this morning. They were talking about the demise of happy hour, because people aren't all in the workplace and people aren't drinking the way they used to. And it was so interesting when you think about it from a cultural standpoint, that happy hour has been an essential part of people's lives. But
That's
so
what
many
I
people
mean.
that were interviewed, talked about like
Yeah.
leaving work, bonding with their teammates and their partners and having conversations they never otherwise would have had. And marriages started over happy hours and just all those cultural things. So I think there is a sacredness to the connective tissue between us, the need to hold a plush animal and the warm and
Oh,
fuzzy that it
yeah.
brings us.
When that's
And
proven, by the way, that's truly scientifically proven. It really is,
right. I mean, it's
that you
amazing. So,
need those things.
as a leader of a company and an industry, frankly, you've had such impact around these businesses in the kid space, the family space. What do you see for yourself? Is there a reinvention on the horizon in terms of what your learnings have sort of brought you to this aha moment that, you start to look at? You've got this incredible book that came out, Stories and Heart. Um, that was that the first book you had written? I apologize that I don't know
No,
that, but
yeah, it's the
was that
first book that is published.
right? Okay, well, there you go. It's
No,
something that's
there's all
you know
kind.
what they say, if you're a writer, just write.
I'm
That's what
sure.
they say. So
Yeah,
just
and
keep
I'm
writing.
sure you've got files and files of this and that and the other,
Oh,
maybe not another
yes.
complete book
I've got
somewhere,
3
but
I've got 3 books that aren't complete, okay? That's a whole other story, yes.
so, but that particular, the book is, sort of like circling back to what we talked about in the beginning. There's so many silly things you learn, and I just wish I'd known. And, as you start to get older in your career, you end up at these, talks or whatever, and almost inevitably, somebody asked me the question like, "Well, what would you tell yourself, if you
It's
could talk to your 20 or 30-year-old self?" And I'm like, "Oh, a whole lot.
so let me put it in a book.
Most of it is calm down. It's gonna be all
Right?
right, right?" And but there's some serious stuff in there, and so much of it is a head game. And I think it's exactly like what we were talking about in the beginning. What stories do you tell yourself about what just happened? What's rolling around in your head about who you are or who you think you are or what you think you're capable of? Is that baggage, or, is that empowering, or is that devastating to you? Is what's in your head what's keeping you from being successful? And so many times that's the case. And that makes me sad because, and only because people never hear this straight up. They never hear it. You wrap the stories around what's happening. Anything could happen. It's what you do with it. It's the mythology you wrap around it and then continue to this this happened to me in this job, and it was because I did this and I was terrible and I was this. I'm telling you, most of the time you don't even know why that happened. It could have been something nothing to do with you, and you're carrying this baggage around that is only disempowering you. And I'm just asking to consider the possibility that none of that's true.
Yeah, I have a dear friend who's in the business of reframing and works with people and advises and consults and leads them in reframing workshops. And there's an expression that was introduced and with all the reinvention conversations that I've had in 10 years. It was sort of such an aha moment for me when I heard this, and I love sharing it. It's the expression, what if?
Yeah,
What if? What if I tried this? What if that wasn't really what I think it is, to your point?
100%.
What if? And so, I think it's just such a powerful way to just pause and say, what if? What if I tried? What if
Yeah.
I went there? What if I rethought it? What if I reframed it? What if I put on those rose colored lenses and kind of looked at it the way she is looking at it? Can I adopt that? And, we only hope that these types of conversations help those that are listening and, our friends out there that we talk to every day just sort of think about what's possible and what else they could be doing with this
Well,
incredible
there's
life of theirs.
just like anything else, if you're going to try something, there's going to be some sort of odds, there'll be a curve on whether or not you're successful. And the odds are you're going to be somewhere in the middle of this curve. Yet we focus on the worst thing that can happen and so rarely focus on the best thing that can happen. which is probably better odds than the worst thing, or at least equal odds is the worst thing that can happen if you think
You're
about it
right.
on a
You're
bell curve.
so right.
But our minds go to the worst thing that can happen. So
Right.
then I kind of akin to this, that what you were sharing, I went through a process when I was wanting to move to New York. I was scared to death. And finally just said, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? Literally, really, what's the worst thing that can I mean, there are worse things, but g- I don't get the job, or I get the job and I fail, and I come back and I'm right back where I was. And then you're like, I cannot believe that I'm so upset and concerned about that. Like,
Right,
that's not
right. Like,
even
I'm always gonna be hireable, I'll make money. I mean, I used to say this to myself, running
terrible. Like,
an
and then you
agency for
spend a year in New York. Oh my God. It's
right, right.
so
No,
what?
I love that you're saying that because I've always said, like, I've been running an agency now for 37 years,
Yeah,
right? When you lay awake at night and the panic or the fear of, the what ifs, what if, this doesn't work out and this deal falls apart and I don't get that client or da 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 da. You're like going, okay, at the end of the day, if I keep layering this down, okay, so I lose all the clients. So I lose the agency. What am I really not hireable after all these years doing what I do? Someone's going to pay me to do what I do for a living. Even
100%.
if I do, is that really the worst thing in the world? No,
No,
it's not. Put all that away. Don't think about it. Don't waste your energy. And I'm not one to spend any energy on
particularly when
worry
you're
or fear
young.
ever.
People need to hear
Yeah.
this when they're young.
Yeah.
You're recoverable when you're
Love that.
young.
Quote unquote. I
I
love that.
mean, if you move to New York and you don't make it and you spend a couple of years there and you go back, whatever, do whatever, that will still be looked at as a positive thing. That's a
No, I
positive
love that.
thing.
So
That's
I've got a
not a
quick
negative.
question for you, Sharon. I know we've got to wrap up quickly, but a few quick things, if I may. I feel like curiosity and interest has played a big role in all that you've ever done. Are there things that you are curious about now? Do you feel like that kind of feeds your soul and things that, you're looking at that are happening in the world, in business that kind of light you up a little bit that you can
Look,
share with us?
I'm forever curious. End up, I don't think I'm really an expert at anything, maybe kids business now, I don't know. But I think I'm good at a lot of things, right? But not an expert. It's sort of like, I think that's what CEOs are. Like we aren't really,
You
that's,
have to be
we
a
can't
lot.
really do,
You have to be a lot.
you know,
Yes.
we can't really do anything like at an exceptional level. So
Right.
we
It's like
just,
I could do a lot, as my dad
yeah.
said, a jack of all trades and a
Exactly,
master of
jack of
all
all
of
trades,
them.
Jill of all trades, maybe,
Yes.
but,
Yes.
um, but what then you do when you are so curious about how does this work? How does that work? Every functional area, like even when I was at Mattel, I'd be like, send me to China, send me to China, send me to China. I want to see. And they finally, like the guys in sourcing, are like, send her to China. Don't give her a ticket back. Right.
I was going to say, just send her there. Don't bring her
Just
back.
please
That's
God,
hysterical.
get her out of my office.
That is
It's like, I
hysterical.
want to know how it works.
Right.
I'm following the people around at Toys R Us and digging stuff out of the back room. I want to know how
That's
it works.
hysterical.
But what happens when you do that and you start moving up is you start to understand how money is made, how businesses work, and then you connect dots. And when you got to know a lot to connect dots. The connecting of what looks like a disparate situation for many, but you see that connection, that's where value is created.
Yeah.
Guys, we've got this out of order. Our guys, do you know after you do this, they completely do it the other way and make this renders that ridiculous? Stop doing these two steps. It's just one step, but nobody's ever figured it out because you never laid it all out and you're too siloed.
Right.
Learn how your company makes money. Learn how business is done. Understand this lever makes that lever go up, and this lever makes that lever go sideways. And when you start to put all that together and see the interconnections, which is what CEOs do well,
Right.
It's amazing,
It's game changing. Yeah.
particularly
Yeah.
if you learn to be a good communicator, both up and down, horizontally and
Right.
vertically.
Right. Which is
Um,
critical. I mean, you have to. And I know, at some point in your life you were on the Undercover Boss show, and I'm
I
sure,
love it.
but that says a lot about what you believe and what you do. And, knowing and understanding all the people that are part of the ecosystem that makes the whole machine work is really valuable and gives you the insights to understand all the moving pieces. And I just love that. Okay. I feel like we could be here for like 5 hours because I have
It's so
so
much
many
fun.
things I want to chat with you more about. But I'm going to ask you a super fun question as we wrap up. And it's sort of slightly off topic, but I would imagine there have been some amazing humans in your life, in your journey, business wise, whether you've, seen people from a distance and aspirationally, whether they've been mentors in your world. If you could have a dinner party and have 3 or 4 really special people, they could be famous, they could be dead, they could be prolific business people, who would you want to surround yourself at a dinner table that just really could impact your life?
Yeah, so I'm terrible at questions like this. People ask these and I can never. The people make fun of me because I can't answer these rapid fire. Terrible. So I'll answer it in 2 ways. The first
Okay.
way is if I could have a dinner with anybody, it would probably be my mommy and daddy
Oh,
because they've been gone for a long time now.
so
My mom has
sorry.
just been gone for 25 years, and, you I thought I was so
You
grown up
definitely want.
when I lost her, and I was just in my 30s,
She'd be very proud of you now.
she was proud of
She's
me then.
watching. Yep,
So,
yep.
and my daddy, and so I don't have, either of them. So either way, anyway, but I'll give you on a macro level, family aside, kind of like, sappiness aside,
Yes.
I would pick people that are likely like inventors, writers, philosophers, scientists, artists, not famous people. Not, I mean, they might be famous because of that, but that
Right.
doesn't matter to me.
Right.
Not pop stars, not politicians, not anything in that space. I like thinkers, and I'd wanna get up under that kind of, sort of like, more philosophical types of things, and I
Right.
would find
Right.
that infinitely interesting.
That, and I think, that type of a conversation with those humans at a table together, especially when you start to see the dialogue that happens among them. And you see a
From
scientist and a
different
philosopher
eras
from
and
different eras.
yeah,
Exactly. Like,
exactly.
wow,
I almost think that
fascinating.
in some ways, I think they would probably say, "Here, it's just that you're gonna see this repetition of the
Yes,
way, human nature works."
you're right. I love that. Well, that's a beautiful way to conclude our conversation, as much as I don't want to. Sharon, I'm so grateful for having you on here. Thank you for sharing a part of you, your business. You are such an inspiration on so many levels. And I'm thrilled to know you, and congrats on just all the things that you've created and accomplished, and can't wait to see what else is next. And for those listening, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this reinvention conversation. I hope we are inspiring you and motivating you to go out and do all the things that you're dreaming of. And Sharon, I look forward to lots more conversations offline with you and in the near future. And happy reinventing, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for listening to The Power of Reinvention. If you enjoyed this episode, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Wouldn't mind a 5-star review. It would be greatly appreciated. Also, be sure to visit thereinventionexchange.com to share your reinvention stories, suggest a guest, join the newsletter mailing list, get access to my book, which is called Reinvent Your Life, What Are You Waiting For?, and discover fantastic bonus content with my blogs, and listen in to the Reinvention Virtual Chat series. Don't forget to join me next week for another episode. Please share with a friend, and thank you for listening. Happy reinventing.